Hello everyone, my name is Moti Itskovich. I'm AKT's Employee Central lead. I'm excited to share with you a few of the highlights of the new options made available on this release. We have some major enhancements coming, including one which was a project showstopper for a few of our customers. So let's start. Company structure overview has been constantly improved on every release in the past year. This feature provides an additional view of the company organizational hierarchy. The current major release improvement is around the configuration accessibility. Before this, creating this view required a more technical skilled person to set it up. With the current improvements, any system admin with the appropriate permission would be able to set it up and adjust it. Now let's look on how this looks like in SuccessFactors. Once the new permission has been granted, a new icon would be visible, which would lead you to a new page, the company structure configuration. On this page, you have the option of adding and deleting entities or changing layouts design of the specific entity selected, as shown on this screen. Layout changes, including adjusting the color and content to be visible on each of the entities. As a general note, SuccessFactors designed the company structure overview to provide an additional navigation option for the user. This next feature provides just that for customers which have enabled positions on their instance. It is an additional navigation option to the position org chart. This is the icon highlighted here in yellow. When selecting this, the user would be transferred to the position org chart where he can view and edit the selected position details more extensively. The next feature is called optimistic locking. Danny mentioned it shortly. This feature prevents two different users to make changes on the same entity at the same time. The way it works is first change wins. So the first user can submit the change and save it, but when the other user is attempting to save his changing, an error message pops up, and he would not be able to continue with the save process. He would need to cancel these changes, reopen the entity, review the content, the current details of the entity, and make changes if indeed still required. With this release, it is embedded on position entities, which will ensure position data quality. End-dated recurring payments. On previous release, SuccessFactors has introduced an option to add a pay component to a user, to an employee, with an end date. You no longer need to first create it, then save it, then delete it. Once you add the relevant pay component to the employee, a new link would be shown, define end dates, as you can see here on the screen. Until now, this was possible only for new hire process. With this release, it is enabled also on all other processes such as rehire, internal hire, etc. One configuration note: this configuration is done per pay component, and it is not collectively configured or impacting all of the pay component, which I believe is very good, since entering end dates is not relevant for all pay components. The next enhancement is something several of our customers have been waiting for. On fields which contain list of users such as supervisor and all of the job relationship managers fields, you can restrict with permission the list of employees which can be searched and selected. This is important because it can potentially improve data quality, where you will not be able to select managers who are not entirely relevant for the employee. Well, workflows. So the workflow feature is useful. This feature is useful for those of you who are creating or modifying the workflow configuration. if you do, you know that when you set up a workflow and wish to test it, you don't always know which workflow was in fact triggered. Sometimes only option you had was to slightly change the workflow participants in order to differentiate between the different workflows. It is now possible to see which workflow was configured and which the system has derived simply by hovering over the text, and the workflow code would be shown, as you can see here on the screen. Timesheet collectors. This feature is potentially solving a showstopper for our customers. If you have not considered to implement timesheet modules, you might want to take a second look on that with this enhancements. So this is called timesheet time collectors. Collectors are generic counters you can use to collect or count specific things based on processed time records. It is possible to have it collecting on a daily basis. For example, how many hours a day employee worked totally. Also on a weekly basis, number of on-call times performed on weekends, or on a monthly basis. For example, number of overtime hours in a week after 8 o'clock. These collectors can be used in reports to report on, and also to raise error messages based on the time valuation result. For example, raise an error when employee records more than 10 hours a day, or weekly error, filter out employees who have worked more than 10 hours, or monthly collectors pop up a reward for employees who have worked more than 5 late shifts. Here it's how the error message would look like in the system. On the right, this is how this can be set up. Okay, this is the entity when you need to set up in order to activate this. And on the left, you can see the error message once triggered upon timesheet evaluation is completed. I believe this was the missing option in order to truly be able to support customers' timesheet requirements. So this is very exciting for those of you who are considering the timesheet options. These were my Employee Central release highlights. I hope it was useful for you. Thank you very much.